How disruptive do you think this is going to be? I mean, in financial services, it's not well publicized, but there are estimates that they've already, well, I'm talking really banks and insurance companies here, but particularly banks have seen 20% of their revenue and profits eroded over the last decade or so. This is just from platforms that don't even use crypto. Platforms, for example, like Stripe and PayPal. We've seen some move into things like peer-to-peer lending. We've seen startups and fintechs coming in, offering faster, better, cloud-native digital type solutions. And so the establishment has been incredibly slow to move already. How dangerous for them if they don't really get into crypto and DeFi and blockchain is it going to be? Is this, I suppose, potentially going to be the end for some organizations?
Colin, as I said, in 2016, I said to the board of Stripe, I said, guys, if we do not do something different, incomes will start drying. Have a look to anybody listening to this webinar. Have a look at the number of listed companies on the JSE. Take 10 years. The number of listed companies 10 years ago, like in the 600. Today, I don't think there's more than 350 companies listed, and more companies will delist and less companies will list because this new technology gives you so many opportunities. Look at the way that Coinbase listed. It listed on NASDAQ, but it didn't go the normal route of getting an underwriter, blah, blah, blah. Their mode was just to monetize the share price that they were trading at that time out of the market. So they just became more institutionalized. But it wasn't the traditional way of listing. That's going to go out with,
but they could still list an exchange moniker, which I thought was interesting. Why didn't they do an ICO, initial coin offering, for example?
Yes, because remember, they needed to, first they believed, Brian Armstrong believes very strongly that he wants to create change from within. So now that he's part of the, the group, New York, the real legacy, he can start showing them how things can be done. The market cap of Coinbase is bigger than Goldman Sachs and bigger than the New York Stock Exchange. So he's making a point. And a week later,
the Trojan horse strategy for marketing to, I guess, bring validity to the model and take out the institutions that's hosting it, in this case, the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ.
100%. I'll give you an example. I predicted this. I said, if the cryptocurrencies exchanges allows you to, with a simple finger, to trade real time, no cost, no intermediaries, across, borders, what would stop them from now not only trading cryptocurrencies, but tokenized stock, shares? And what happened a week ago, Binance announced that you could buy Tesla shares using their cryptocurrency exchange. And this is the beginning of the end for legacy financial markets if they don't get their act together.
We'll go two last questions then. The first one is around risk. I think this is a great question. What is your perception of the risk, both from a sort of cyber attack perspective of DeFi and blockchain? I think that's quite quickly to answer. But I think the harder one is, what about criminality? The anonymity that you get when you're transferring and transacting on something like a blockchain-enabled system is presumably a big problem. This is going to cause issues for regulators and governments around the world.
Well, not really. I don't know if you have been following Chain Analysis. Chain Analysis is an amazing company. They're able to track exactly what's going on in the Bitcoin blockchain. So they can tell you who is paying money to ISIS, and everything is trackable. So yes, there are certain cryptocurrencies that have been designed to be totally private. So in the same way you use a knife for cutting meat, you can use a knife to murder someone. So some cryptocurrencies will be used for one thing or another. But let's be honest, Colin. What is being used today for criminality? Cash. And we're talking about cryptocurrencies. That is nonsense. But it will be regulated, and that's why when central bank digital currencies come to the market, they will allow certain level of privacy, like the digital dollar is talking about $10,000 transaction, up to $10,000 transaction to allow privacy. After that, you have to fully disclose the transactions. So you see how everybody likes to throw mud at this industry because it's rather to dismiss it and say, this is for criminals, to the point, Colin, that when I present to CEOs in South Africa and around the world, I do not mention any cryptocurrency. Why? Because the moment you talk about Bitcoin, that's for criminals. And then they don't listen to all the changes that are coming because of blockchain. So that's why I said to you when you asked me to talk about in this webinar, I said, please don't cover crypto because people immediately dismiss everything I have to say. But the truth be told is that if you carry on dismissing, then you're going to wake up one morning, the tipping point would be here, and you won't know what hit you. That's the fact.
When I've been doing keynotes and workshops with companies, one of the themes that we always talk about in every single industry is artificial intelligence. The argument being that if you're not using artificial intelligence to help you in a gazillion different sorts of ways, then you will lose out because the automation and the benefits that you get from it are absolutely intense. It doesn't matter if it's data analytics, robotics, visual identification. I don't see how companies will survive over the next decade if they aren't investing in artificial intelligence and machine learning. What's your advice then for companies around blockchain, smart contracts, decentralized finance? And you've said the risks, but how can they start getting into it? What do they need to do to get their arms around it so that they don't see the same risks that I've just described in things like AI?
Okay, and I would like to come back, before I answer your question, I want to mention AI and how it's totally complementary to what we do. I give you two good examples. One, medical health. The data about your health will be under your control. So you will have the complete database of your medical history. And therefore, when you get sick, as we saw during COVID, you do not go and see the doctor. You send a file electronically to the doctor. The doctor will have AI, and they feed all this data into AI, and AI will be a tool that doctors will get help to decide what's wrong with you. Okay. Another example, auditing. Because the record of ledgers will be recorded real time, and the auditor will have this information real time. What happens is the auditors do a lot of procedures to determine ratios and something that detects when something is wrong. All of that work will be done by AI. So the auditor of the future won't have to come and audit your books. It will be able to get all the information real time, electronically, and feed it to AI to decide what's missing, because what's missing is normally the problem. So can you see the evolution and how all the fourth industrial revolution technologies will come together? Like we know very well that Internet of Things devices can be hacked. But if you put an IoT with a blockchain, you can't. And therefore, everything comes together. Data, big data, analytics, robotics, everything comes together. So that's to answer that. And that's why you're absolutely correct. You will not be able to live without AI in the same way you won't be able to live with blockchain, because blockchain is the new ledger. So how do we begin? Very simple. I really say this, and every time I say this, they think I'm mad, but I always think you should dedicate at least an hour a day. You know that concept of at least 5 hours a day to learn? You need to dedicate at least an hour a day to learn. I even created a document that has a list of all the websites, all the podcasts, all the webinars that you could already access for free in the internet to start your user experience of learning about blockchain. Everything I know is because I read. No, I didn't go to university to learn this. Actually, I became a professor at the University of Johannesburg because I'm lecturing the professors about blockchain. How did I learn? On my own in the internet. So, I even got a question from a bank, which I could not believe they asked me that question. They said, should we have to learn this, or can we delegate it to a division in the bank? And I said, did you delegate to a division in the bank how to use the emails? No, you don't. You all know how to use email. That's exactly the same. This is for everybody. And the sooner that you start learning, the sooner you're going to start applying this new technology. If not, your clients will move somewhere else. And just remember, Colin, that this technology is the internet. So there's no walled garden. So someone sitting in Siberia could be offering services to anybody in South Africa. There's no limit. There's no, the opposite. If you put this together and you create the trust, and remember the trust is in the system, people will come to you no matter where you are. It's irrelevant if you are from Siberia or China or whatever, Namibia.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're going to just put it on pause there. But before I do, I thought on that answer you should say two things. I thought you were going to say, firstly, make sure you get in contact with our host today, Huawei, and partners on this series. Would have been the great one. And then the second would have been, and obviously, talk to Consensus as well. But for the second one, how do people get in contact with you if they want to?
So definitely follow me on LinkedIn. In LinkedIn, I publish tons of information. Consensus produces so many papers. So every day when we produce the papers, I share them. Okay. So definitely, I think that LinkedIn would be the best place to find me, because that's where I spend a lot of time sharing information to educate. I want to educate. Plus, there's many YouTube presentations I've given. So if people want to understand the basics, listen to my YouTubes. And I just want to educate the world, because I'm really very scared that the historian Yuval Harari, he says that society will be split between the ones that get it and the ones that don't get it. And I really hope that we don't get to that point, that people get the passion of saying, I want to get it. Because when you look at society today, even my grandmother can send an email. So we should get to that stage that no matter your background, your age, your education, we all should be able to use this technology.
Monica, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.